Welcome everyone to Epic Ride's first ever live recorded podcast here at Dragoon Brewing. I'd like to thank Dragoon for hosting us. Yeah. And I'd like to thank each of you for turning out for our dear friend, Richard DeBernardis. So a little bit of the format of the evening. This is intended to be casual, so please expect that. I'm going to invite a few guests up, one at a time. I'm going to sling some questions at them, all intended to shed context for the legend that is Richard DeBernardis. After a few people to add color, then we're going to invite Richard up and learn all that we can about the man, myth, and legend that is Richard DeBernardis. Sound good? Okay. So first, I'd like to invite Julia Strange. Julia is the VP of Community Benefit at Tucson Medical Center, also known as TMC Health. Nice to be here with you.
Good to be here with you. What are we talking about tonight?
1980s and 90s mountain biking?
Yeah, awesome. That sounds great. That's where I met you. This is the trails of the Santa Ritas.
Exactly. Mm-hmm. I asked you to join us because you had the pleasure of doing business with Richard. And you were doing business with Richard as a cyclist. When did TMC first begin sponsoring El Tour?
We first began sponsoring El Tour about 25 years ago. I don't know the exact year, but it was about 25 years ago. And we were really building our pediatric program. And in that, Richard came and talked to us about the Kids Fun Ride. And he said this would be a really great opportunity to get kids involved in cycling, engaged in physical fitness in a fun and community manner. And I have to tell you, when because I was a cyclist, I always look at cycling events really carefully to make sure I am sponsoring them for the right reasons and not because I love bikes. And so after some considerations, it's important. You experienced that when you came to talk to me about that. And so we decided to sponsor the Kids Fun Ride. And we had so much fun with it. We gave out bike helmets at the events. We have a little mascot for our kids programs. His name is Tomas the Turtle. He's a turtle because he's got a helmet on all the time. And so Tomas rode in the bike race and was really fun. So that was our first engagement. We took a brief hiatus and then we came back as the title sponsor for, 2-3 years, and really enjoyed that title sponsorship position.
What, from a direct impact standpoint, like how did Richard and the animal that is El Tour de Tucson deliver for TMC?
I think El Tour de Tucson is so much more than a bike race. It's not a day. It is a lifestyle that people engage. It is, when I think about singular programs and events in Tucson that have positively impacted individuals' lives, exposing them to cycling, exposing them to the power of community around fitness. It is incredible. There are so many people who ride bikes today because of El Tour.
Yeah. Oh, I almost forgot. Every time the words El Tour are said, you're supposed to take a drink.
El Tour, El Tour, El Tour.
So I had the pleasure of officing within El Tour's offices for a decade. And I just remember these massive committee meetings that Richard would hold as a major sponsor. What stands out about working with Richard and El Tour?
You know, Richard was and was always incredibly present in all of the work that went on with El Tour, not just during the year, but through the cycle of the event that day. I think that Richard and his vision, because when he talked about El Tour, it wasn't about a bike race. It was about building community. It was about growing Tucson, making Tucson healthier, making individuals healthier, and making the businesses that were investing in El Tour, making us stronger. And we really saw the benefit of that. In some recent, in the last 10 years, there was some data that came out around obesity rates among children in Pima County. And while we did not lower the obesity rates in Pima County, while the rest of the country and the state increased, we were flat. And it is things like El Tour that create that culture, that of fitness and of healthy lifestyles and of community that are so important and are so vital to us.
Boom. Thanks, Julia.
You're welcome.
Anything you'd like to add?
I think that as a community, we are stronger together. And Richard, what you've built here from that singular bike ride that you and your buddies took into where we are today and it's being carried forward into the future is phenomenal and will continue to make Tucson so unique and so powerful for ourselves, but also as we really shine on a national stage. So thank you for all you do, and thank you for being my friend. And thank you for, you gave me one time, you gave me this beautiful little pendant. And I realized when I was standing down here today, I should have put that on, but it means so much to me and I wear it so often. So you're a gem and we all applaud and thank you.
Thanks, Julia.
Where do you want me to go now?
So this is...
Do you want me to go down one?
Yep, you shift over one. Exactly. That's exactly what it is.
Look, I all of a sudden have 2 beers.
Okay, next up, I would like to not introduce you, you already know him, but I'd like to bring up Scott Shipman, a longtime member. A longtime member of the El Tour family. Scott, how many years did you work at El Tour?
I started in 2000.
Yeah.
Actually moved out to Tucson to volunteer with Richard. I first rode the tour in 89 and lived life. In between that, before I moved out here, Richard actually, Richard's got connections all over. He's got connections all over.
The world.
And I was having some bumpy roads in life, and he said, hey, I got a friend up in Jackson, Wyoming. You're going to go up there, and you're going to stay with him. And the rest was history. I left my heart up there when I moved around after that. So Richard and I kind of go back. But I started working for Perimeter in 2000.
So wait, you and Richard go back. When did you guys first meet?
Okay, well, legend has it, I can't attest to it, but legend has it that Richard met me when I was 2 years old.
Yeah.
So this would have been about 1967. And Richard actually lived across the street from my family and lived in a neighbor's guest house over the garage.
Where was that?
This is in Los Angeles. This is in West Los Angeles, near UCLA. And while Richard was teaching up at UCLA, he made his life there, and I was there running around. I was probably still in diapers at 2. I don't know. And the rest was kind of history. Richard would just check in, like he does with everybody. He checks in with everybody in his life, where he has the time. Now I reflect back as I got older and realized, wow, Richard was sending us postcards when he was running the tour. And where did he have time for that? Well, some of us in the office would wonder, gee, he just spends so much time looking after the people that Where is he? He's supposed to be at a meeting. Well, he's talking to somebody who's just had their 10th cancer treatment somewhere across the country, and he's going to be late for the meeting. So, you just got used to that with Richard.
So you're starting to allude to it, but what was it like working at El Tour, being a part of the El Tour family?
It was definitely the family dynamic. It really was amazing to just connect with so many people. We were all passionate about the mission, and we got there because Richard basically made us that way. Richard's heart, Richard's just endearing nature of wanting people to be their best, to be happy, and just wanting the community. I'll dovetail off what Julie said, is he just wanted the community to really prevail and do the best for the community. And that was really our purpose. That was our mission, is just to go out there and produce the best events. At the time, we had 4 events, and just do the best we could with each event, make everybody their best.
Yeah. Scott, is there anything you'd like to add?
Well, it was really just pretty amazing working in the office, just in general. The stories, the times where you'd go in and talk to Richard. Richard, he would live. Folks that know him knows that he would live at the office. Basically, he would sleep at the office. I mean, you could just count on him. You call him, he's going to be at the office. So you're calling him at midnight, and you're talking to him. He's supposed to be writing dedication dinner recipient points, and you're talking to him for 2 hours, and it's like, Richard, I got to let you go. Well, maybe he fell asleep at the other end of the line because he just was up all day and all night doing things. So just so many different adventures. The Cochise Classic, we used to run our event down in Cochise County, most of you know. And here we were at, one of us might be out there at 12 midnight out at Road Forest, New Mexico, watching the cyclists go by. And, Richard's, maybe 20 miles ahead or behind, we're looking after the cyclists. And that was just some of the more memorable times for me, is being at this relatively smaller one of our events and having a lot of dedicated, loyal cyclists come back year after year. And, like we do in life, we look back at those times and realize, damn, those were really precious memories.
Yeah.
So that was my take. And for almost somewhat 20 years working with Richard.
Yeah. Thanks, Scott.
Thank you, God.
All right, I'm going to bring our third guest up. Where is he? He's over there. Jimmy Riccatello, will you? Richie Tello? Is that no, I know the European TV pronunciation these days. Jimmy, you are the first Xterra World Champion. You're an Xterra Hall of Famer, Pima County Hall of Famer. And today you are the Global Director of Rules and Special Projects at Ironman.
Yeah.
Yours and Tracy's son, Matthew, is racing in the World Tour on Israel Premier Tech. It's fair to say cycling in Tucson has been and continues to be a major part of you and your family's life.
That is true. I thought you were going to say El Tour so I could have a sip of beer.
El Tour.
Yeah. That is true. And it's all because of Richard. Indirectly, that's true.
So you were raised in Tucson?
For the most part. I've been here since 7th grade, so yeah.
You graduated high school here?
Well, that's, yeah.
Debatable.
I made it through.
Let's not go there. Yeah. You were a professional triathlete, and you chose to live and train here.
Well, I would say that I really didn't have a choice. I grew up here. My family moved away, actually, my junior year in high school, and I
You were left in Tucson.
I was left on the
and you
doorstep with
chose to stay.
Yep. And true story, and ran into people like Richard, other people that you guys all know in the cycling community, Ralph Phillips. In fact, I haven't had a beer, this is a true story, since Ralph hired me to landscape his yard, and he paid me with a 12-pack of beer.
I'm not sure what that says about this beer now.
It's really good.
Thanks for being here. How did being in Tucson and choosing to train here as a professional triathlete, one that made a living at it, which is not an easy thing to do, like you need to be the best basically. How did Tucson cycling community factor into that?
It's crazy. I rode my bike literally. It's the way I got to and from the University of Arizona. I lived on the far east side, so I commuted and I ran into people who did Richard's event, who did El Tour, and as we're racing down the street to get to school and back, convinced me to jump in El Tour. I think it was maybe 1985 or 86 was maybe the first year I did it. So triathlon came after this. Cycling was swimming was what got me going. Cycling was my means of transportation, and someone just said, everybody can run. But it was El Tour that really introduced me to the world of competitive cycling. Forever grateful for that.
So today, Matthew races in the World Tour, World Tour, and he can train anywhere in the world.
Yeah.
He's based over in France, in France, but he still comes back here to do his winter training and his mileage. Is it because of you and Tracy, or is it because of the riding community?
Well, we'd like to think it's because of us, but it's really not. There is no better place, and I think what El Tour did, from my standpoint, is it introduced this community to bikes, to bicycles. It proved that, and I don't know how you did this, Richard, still, and I do work for Ironman, and we put on events all over the world, and I'm going to just say that this is the only event that I know of outside of the Boston Marathon and the New York Marathon. If you can put on an event in a community for 40 years, if you have an event that doesn't outstay its welcome, you're doing something right. And that the fact that El Tour is still here now is because of the relationships you've established and the way you went about business with this community, and not just the sponsors, but the people who drive their cars. I mean, we're going, right through the heart of Tucson. Anyway, it introduced a lot of people to cycling, and I think that in large part, the process that we went through every year to get up in the morning, and Tracy and I, and go participate in one way or another in El Tour, it also motivated our kids to get on bicycles, and ride to school and jump in the El Tour events. He started with the little El Tour event that you had along the river, the very first one, and it went from there.
Yeah.
Laid a pretty strong foundation. Richard did, huh?
Yeah.
So y'all, I asked Julia and Scott and Jimmy to come and be a part of this because I wanted Julia to be able to speak to the professionalism and the deliverable, the impact that Richard and El Tour had and have on our community from a business standpoint. I wanted Scott because, come on, El Tour family all day. And Jimmy because this is a training hotbed. And El Tour did that. It put Tucson on the map as a bona fide place to come and spend your winter training. And not joking, because I'm still paying attention to these things, this year, it's stronger than it's ever been. It's the culmination of 40 plus years of hard work in appealing to our leadership to have bike lanes and everything else that Richard was completely involved in and paved the way for. Julia, Scott, Jimmy, thank you.
You're welcome.
Thank you. Folks, now if you can help me welcome to the front the one and only Richard DeBernardis.
I love it. Love you too. Always good. Don't think I'm crying. I have a cold. But I'm also crying.
Let's hope it's not the same cold Matt has. Hi, Richard.
Hi, Todd. I can hardly handle just being with one of you because you're all so exciting to me. But then to get you all together, it's like, oh my God, it's just too much.
So, this is a line from Barbara. Richard, in 1983, you took a ride around Tucson with a friend, and that turned into El Tour de Tucson.
No, that's it.
I want to talk about that. But first, I want to go earlier. I want to talk about the formative years. You come from a big family. You're one of 11?
Julie and I both, one of 8?
7.
7, yeah. So she understands. Yeah, one of 11.
We want to understand. What was that like?
Well, like I tell my brothers and sisters, I'm number 6 from the top and 6 on the bottom. So I'm the balancer in the family. Well, ask any one of them, they'll tell you it's no. I mean, Julie, you'll identify a lot of this. You get to the table to eat. Well, if you talk, you lose the food, you know? So, and just think, 11 kids at the table with your parents, if each one of us brought one home, you know, it's like 20-some people there. So, and every one of us are different. Every one of my brothers, and God bless them, they're crazy fun, you know, and all doing crazy things and everything in life, and all the way down to my nephew back there, who's great nephew, it's his 29th birthday today.
Happy birthday.
And he comes to Tucson 4 years ago, and where does he work? He's from Long Island, so where do you think he works, you know, for one of these big companies or something? He works at the Tucson Petting Zoo. The exotic animals, ostriches, tarantulas, snakes. He becomes a snake guy to go take snakes out of your house and everything. And today, he's one of the top highliners in America. He walks across cables from one canyon to the next. I mean, a boy from New York does that. But happy birthday, Timothy. I'm so... Jimmy, my great nephew, Jimmy. I mean, wait till you get to the point where it's your great nephew, but you'll probably have a great, great, great nephew because you're in such incredible shape. The boy looks like 17. And what, you're 50 or?
Yeah, whatever.
Yeah, what's the difference? You just look incredible. You know?
So Richard, you grew up with 10 other siblings in Brooklyn, New York. What were some of the trials and tribulations of growing up in Brooklyn? What drove you
Brooklyn's a
across the
great
country
place to be from. I love being from Brooklyn. I can't live there anymore, it's too expensive. You know? No, I love being in Brooklyn. I love being from a great family. I mean, big family. My family was fun. We always did exciting things, the stories would go on and on and on. My family, my mom, most incredible mother. How can you guys imagine? Mother of 11 children. How do you handle 11 children when some of us can't handle one? You know? No, so I had a great mom. My dad had 3 jobs. We were a working class family. They taught us to work hard. All my brothers and sisters, and even down to my nieces and nephews, great nieces and nephews, and great nieces and nephews, they're all really hard workers. That's what My mom used to say, if you want something in life, you really want it, all you have to do is work hard for it. You know, I was a learning disability child because we didn't even know those words back in the 40s and the 50s when I was raised. I graduated 125th out of 125, was told that I could never go to college. And in my school, it was a Catholic high school, everyone got scholarships, everyone got accepted to college, everyone graduated when they were supposed to, but I failed geometry, so I had to go to summer school. I was the only one that had to go to summer school. Well, it's incredible. I mean, I believe what my mom said. If you really want something, I wanted to go to college, but I was told I couldn't. You know, I was literally told I was stupid and I was done. Went out to California, got into a community college, graduated from the community college. I couldn't believe it. Got accepted to UCLA. I couldn't believe that. Wound up teaching at UCLA, and then graduated from Harvard. You know, so it's like, and I say that not for any great applause or anything, but there's so many of us out there. And you know what? That's what El Tour is all about. When I meet a man, like this man up here, Greg Hawkinsmith, who's had an accident in high school, lost the use of his legs, and 20 years later, he sets the world record bicycling up Mount Fuji. Yeah, on a four-wheel hand cycle. I look at him, and he reminds me of me because of my challenges that I have in reading. I couldn't read, and this man, what he's done. I look at every single one of you, and I know many of you personally. I know your stories. You know, when I look at Martha McSally, what she did in the world for women in the service. Martha, the first woman squadron leader in the world, or just in what's the difference?
She's like,
you
sure.
did it, Martha. And more than that, when she would go over to Iran and the Middle Eastern countries, she had to wear the garb of the Middle Eastern countries, while senators and wives or diplomats' wives, they were able to wear their garb. But she broke that record. And Fu, you lived in Iran, so you know what it's like. You too had to wear the garb. And she broke that. She broke that principle and all. And the woman's a triathlete and a pilot, and it goes on and on, you know? And then, who I wish were here tonight, Gabby Giffords, because you guys kind of followed each other. Gabby Giffords, I don't think our hearts were shot that day when Gabby was shot. And then Elaine Mario, the winner of the Race Across America back in 1986, became Gabby's teacher and got her to ride El Tour. And Gabby's been riding El Tour to Tucson every year since 2 years after she was shot. You know, that's what El Tour is all about. Or my friend Cola, she's been doing our t-shirts, 200,000 t-shirts for us, days and nights. Or our friend Norm Land. Remember Norm Land, the owner of the Good Earth restaurant? Norm passed a few months ago. Norm used to make 50,000 cookies a year for El Tour. He started 6 months before. Now, the interesting thing, our friend Michael Coles, who is the chairman of the board of the Great American Chocolate Chip Cookie Company, Michael rode El Tour every year too. Michael, I had a little conflict. Norm wanted to make the cookies, but Michael was the sponsor. The Great American Chocolate Chip Cookie was the official cookie of El Tour. But when I told Michael that Norm wanted to make 50,000 cookies, he said, Richard, I have the contract. You can't do that. I said, but Michael, I need the cookies. He said, well, do you want the cookies or do you want the money? I said, well, I want both. He said, well, if you're going to take my money, I have to be the official cookie. So I told Norm, we stood up all night, how are we going to override this? Well, we called it, Norm came up with the idea, let's call them El Tourettes. So everybody on the route ate El Tourettes for years, but what did they do? They called it the cookie.
Richard. Richard.
I mean, this is only, we come from a family of 11. This is what you have to think about, how you're going to get your cookies.
We got here from a family of 11. Why did you pick Harvard?
Why did I pick Harvard?
Yeah.
You know, this is so funny. When I was at UCLA, I found the field of learning disabilities. I was studying law and I was studying mathematics. Well, mathematics at UCLA was much different than mathematics at the community college. I took enough credits to get a minor in math. But while I was there, I've heard about this course in learning disabilities. I took it. It was all about me. I mean, I read it. Low esteem, no confidence, you know? I mean, basically, a lot of our learning problems are we don't have confidence in ourselves. It's not that we can't do it, we can do it. When I used to read about Helen Keller, my philosophy was, if Helen Keller can do it and she can learn, so could I. So could every single one of you. And that's what El Tour is about, is to give you confidence. I mean, we had the fun ride, we had the 25-mile, not everybody could do 100 miles. But I wanted to give that person the feeling of what it's like to be a champion. That's why I did not create a race. El Tour is not a race, it's a ride. And you know what I felt? You know, I was one of those kids in school. I didn't have a great grade point average. I mean, I just managed to make a 2.0. But I wanted to feel successful. I wasn't, because our educational system only rewarded the A's and maybe some of the B's. So everybody, Jimmy, has to get a medallion just because they accomplished it. And that's what I wanted to do with El Tour, and make you feel good. Barbara, and how many of you stayed at till the last cyclist came in? 12 hours. Kent Bostic was out there. He said, I want to be here. He said, it takes me 3.5 hours to ride El Tour. These people are out there 12 hours to do what I did. And he would be standing there applauding them. I mean, people who had cancer. People, I remember Chad, what was her name? Say again?
Colleen.
Colleen.
Yeah.
Team Colleen. Colleen meets her husband at Annapolis, at Annapolis. They marry. They move to Tucson. She's a racing cyclist, and Colleen was stricken with cancer. And in the last year of her life, she wanted to ride El Tour. She rode El Tour. A bunch of you guys got together, took her, and pulled her to the finish line, and got platinum that year. And then she passed on. But Colleen was an example to all of us. We pick people that can show an example that life is tough, but we can do it with the right reinforcement. You really could. My friend Jeanette, where's Jeanette? Jeanette, who started Ben's Bells. I adore you. Jeanette, my mom always said with 11 children, the worst thing a parent can do is lose a child. Jeanette lost Ben when he was 5. But what did Jeanette do? She started to create bells and hang them in trees, and people would find a bell and a little note from Jeanette saying, think about the person you love, the person you lost, or person that has a hard time. Give back, be kind. She's distributed, what, 20,000, 30,000 bells all over the country? People find these, what's that? Over 100,000. Yeah, and you guys Ben Bell. How about this? I said, what should I wear tonight? Everyone got their medallion. Lila and Totten Warfield. How many remember Lila and Totten? Where's Tom? Tom Warfield, where are you, Tom? Lila and Totten Warfield. They came to us in 1985, 84, volunteered in our office for 35 years. Right, and 8 years ago, we honored them. We dedicated El Tour de Tucson to them as our great-grandparents. They were married 70 years, and they were 90 years of age each. And their whole family rides El Tour. I mean, that's what, it's more than a bike ride. It really is. It's more than a race. But the races are important. Every single one of those races were important. Why they gave us Dave Silver, the sportscaster. They would go for the racers. You know, they wanted to promote the racers. But I said, what about everybody else too? And then we made sure they got it too, because Julia helped us with that. Yeah, I know I keep getting off the tangent, but if you know me, I'm always that way.
I want to let you go, but I also I think that we all want to learn about you tonight. There's things that we've all lived that part with you.
I mean, for me to be in a family of 11, I have incredible brothers and sisters. They're all beautiful. They're all smart. I mean, my sisters and my brother, they're really all smart, all really good. I didn't feel that way about myself, you know, for a long time, because I was that kind of kid that acted out in the class, you know, the one you want to send down to the principal all the time. Oh boy, I got sent down to the principal. And I got the paddle. I went to a Catholic school, you know? And it was great going to those schools. I mean, and it was great graduating 125th out of 20. I mean, that makes my story more interesting. You know, I wasn't number one. I didn't want to be number one. You know, when I graduated from UCLA, but it was what I went through as a kid, feeling different from everybody else. Mm-hmm. And look at all the things that we all go through, all the different challenges, what we go through, and we don't recognize what we go. My friend Pat Day, where's Pat? Pat says to me, and I remember this forever, Pat, he goes, Rich, just remember. God, I forgot. No, I'm only kidding. Okay, just remember, Rich, we're all doing the best we can. Right on. And we are, Pat. You know, and Pat's mom can't be with us tonight. Mike and Charlotte Harris, your mom's best friend, Charlotte's here tonight. But Mike, what was I saying? Jimmy, tell me. I lost my train of thought. Pat's mom. In 1993, we went broke. Remember, Tom? That was the fifth time we went broke. You know, so we went broke, and I just finished putting on, or we. When I say I, this was not done by me. This was done by the most incredible staff in the world. These guys, they're all here, and everybody, Dan McGee, you love my staff, you know, always loved everybody in our office. All of you guys did. But Pat's mom, when we went broke in 1993, we were closing, and we just finished putting on the Tour of the Tucson Mountains and the El Tour de Phoenix. We owed the City of Phoenix Police, the City of Mesa Police, we owed cola for the t-shirts for both rides. I owed like $250,000. Sue, who's incredible mom, her kids are here tonight. She said, Rich, remember the 3 laws of mental health. I never heard that before. 3 laws of mental health. Number 1, be honest. Number 2, inform. Number 3, keep the person updated. I called every one of them. I wanted to kiss the chief of police. And then because I had to call the chief of police of Tucson, he goes, all right, everybody has problems. You know, do you have a plan? I said, well, I'm working on it, but I'll call you back. You know, I called everyone, said, everybody except one guy we owed $200 to. I went out and begged for $200 just so I could pay that guy and kick him up. But believe me, we owed like 150 to 200 people. And they were so nice. Well, thanks for calling. You know, most people in life, when you owe somebody money, what do? Hide, cross the street, you know. But I did. I called them the next week. I said, I have a plan. Kevin, thanks to Kevin, who was an attorney of mine at the time, a good friend. We came up with this plan. I can't tell you about it, but we came up with this plan.
Where are the bodies, Richard? Where are the bodies?
Well, no, we literally had someone that owed us $250,000. We didn't think we were ever going to get it, but we got $250,000, paid every single person off. I called them up, they were all so happy. You know, they got their $250,000. Of course, coming years later, Julia, I appeared on the front page of the newspaper, Richard owes $180,000. Well, so what? Doesn't any business owe money to somebody at the end of the year? Yeah, that was kind of like a little hard part for me because I loved El Tour, but it was time for a change, you know? And so I left El Tour, but it taught me so much. You know, I tell people that what I've done, and then I said, well, I don't understand this. I've raised over $100 million for this community, put them on the map all over the world, and worked with every police organization, and 400 police on El Tour de Tucson Day. We were the most protected ride in the country, and they stopped traffic for all of you. You know, El Tour, and people didn't mind after a while. You know, where do you go riding, Jimmy, and be able to not get off your bike once in 100-some miles?
So, Richard.
Yeah.
I think I've got a whole gamut of questions, and I can
Oh,
throw
I'm
half of them
sorry.
out the window. But there's one that I can't let us leave here tonight without asking you. You took a ride around Tucson in 1983, and then you were inspired to start El Tour de Tucson. Why?
So I had done the edge of the United States, the edge of Japan, as a perimeter guy. Well, actually, although my first ride was from Alaska to Mexico. I worked for the University of Alaska in 1976, and I wanted to do something different. I was a cross-country skier. So a friend of mine who said, hey, Richard, you should get into bicycling. He rode his bicycle every day. I said, Tom, take a look around. It's 55 below zero, and there's snow, you know, all around us. But I skied. I went to Alaska because I wanted to ski as a means of living, not for competition. So I said, okay. 1976, I said, okay, I'm going to ride to Mexico. Never been on a bicycle, except as a paper boy when I had a paper route back in Brooklyn, and that was a trip. So I bicycled from Alaska to Mexico, and when I finished, I said to myself...
Had you ridden before you did that ride?
No, paper boy.
Yeah. Most people get on the bike and go for like a ride. You went for a ride.
Well, I mean, but I skied in 50 below zero, and I did a cross-country ski race of 32 miles, you know, and I had a beard, and my face mask froze to my beard, and I mean, there's so many stories about that. But I figured, well, if I can ski, cross-country ski 32 miles, I can probably get on a bicycle.
And
you just pedal a few times and let yourself glide, you know. And look, it was Alaska to Mexico, all downhill, right? Yeah. So I left May 22nd, 1976, and bicycled down the Alcan to Whitehorse, Canada, then took the ferry boat, and then got to Canada, and Vancouver Island's absolutely beautiful. Oh my God, and I had the winds from the north blowing me down, like 150 miles I did with 40-pound packs. I didn't know what I was doing, I just did it. It was fun. You know, but I got all this knowledge and meeting all these people. The worst thing were the grizzlies came out at that time. Now imagine bicycling 24 hours of light, and then I'd camp at night. I bicycled so long that I didn't care if the grizzlies ate me. I was so frightened, and I'd say, I just got to go to sleep, but from here to the next morning, I'll just get on my bike and go, you know? So it taught me so much, met wonderful people. This country's amazing. wonderful people. Got to Mexico, finished, and I said, thank God, I'm never going to do this again. But if I ever did, I'll do the perimeter of the United States. So in 1978, I quit the university, said it's time to go for a bike ride. Started in Seattle, did the whole edge of the United States, and finished 180 days later, 12,092 miles. And here's what I've learned. Most people plan for this, maybe, a year or two in advance. The night before, I took the US map and I took my shoestring from my mountain boot and I measured the edge of the United States and I looked at the interval and multiplied it, what it was, and it came out to 12,000 miles. You know what my trip was? 12,092 miles. It worked. And I said, okay, 180 days. So I did 180 days and you know what? Publicity, because I was going to apply for the Guinness World Record at the end, and they said, well, you need to prove it to us because we're not going to be there. They said, you got to get interviews. Well, I had interviews all over the country, and they gave me a Guinness World Record, and when I submitted my book to them, they said, we should just give you a world's record just for the book that you submitted. And it is. So I'm still writing that book. So, but anyway, I did that, and then I met incredibly wonderful Japanese people who we brought to Tucson, the Tatsuos, the Naokos, the I hear Aki's flying in tonight. He should be here any minute now. Really, he comes for the gem show. And I said when I came to Tucson, well, I bicycled the perimeter of the United States, I bicycled the perimeter of Japan, I might as well bicycle the perimeter of Tucson. So John Alvarez and I started July 6th. 106 degrees. I had dehydration for like a week. I mean, I sat in your father's swimming pool for a whole week because I was so dehydrated. I learned about dehydration. You know, it's just amazing. And so that's how GABA asked me, the Greater Arizona Bicycle Association asked me to do a presentation on my trip around Japan and around the United States. I did. The next thing I knew, I was the corporate president. You know, it's a volunteer job. So, so as a corporate president, they came and asked me if I would put on a bike ride. Okay. So I bicycled the edge of Tucson. Look, when I got into my 30th mile, started at the Kutcher House on Pontotoc, yep, and went up to Skyline and started all the way around. I get to the western end by the Tucson Mountains and I look over. I see the Catalina Mountains. The most beautiful view is looking at the Catalina Mountains from the west side. The most beautiful view looking at from the Catalina Mountains to the east side. Go down to the south, right, and go down to the Catalinas, the right. I said, you know what? I said to John, I said, I mean, this is true. I just stood there and I said, you know, John, I can see thousands of people riding this. This is the ride I'm going to put on. Yeah. We're going to put on the perimeter of Tucson. And we did. You know, I mean, I walked into the Diabetes Association and said, hey, you guys, I got a ride. They had no fundraisers. The highest fundraiser was like 2,000. Chuck Gadden was not the president of the board then. He was on the board when they approved it. You know, and so we put the ride on that first year. I didn't know what to do as an event director, but I'm a pretty good organizer. And so put it on, and we had 198 cyclists the first year. My goal was 200. Yeah, and back there, where's the guy? Wait, where's the guy that rode 35 times, 35 years? Yeah. Where is he? And rode the first El Tour de Tucson way back there. Well, my goal was 200 cyclists. We got 198. I wanted to raise $4,000. We raised $4,500. But you know what? No police bills that year. When I presented it to the police, I was talking to one of the heads of the Pima County Sheriffs. He said to me, so you want to put on this bike ride and you want the cyclists to be on the streets? I said, yeah, because we don't have sidewalks. I don't know if you know, we live in a town without sidewalks. And we did. The police were great. They loved it. And then the next year, 1984, we won the Olympics. The Americans, for the first time in cycling, won the Olympics. I think it was it Connie Carpenter that won the road race? And we got gold medals. The bicycle event the next year went from 198 to 691.
Wow.
Went from 4,500 to 45,000.
Wow.
Then the next year, Greg LeMond wins the Tour de France. We went from 691 to 1,500, from 45,000 to 350,000. And Charlotte just told me the other day, Charlotte Harris, Mike Harris, who was one of my sponsors. You remember Mike Harris? We all remember. Mike was a wonderful man. And Mike brought the Rotary Club to El Tour maybe about 10 years ago, was it, Charlotte? Well, when I left in 2019, up to that point, we raised about $56 million for the Rotary Club. Charlotte told me now, $176 million in the 10 years. But you know what? We had 100 charities. Because the Rotary was writing for the eradication of polio. And they almost have it. We almost eradicated polio from the face of this earth. But I said, well, that's important for the people that are doing polio. Well, what about the cancer people? What about people with diabetes? What about people that have physical, mental challenges or drug addiction challenges? So we started to get more charitable agencies. That was the greatest thing because do you know what the publicity value? 100 charities raising money, promoting throughout the world. Charlotte, you guys promoted us in every country in the world. And it was like, this just happened. You know, you're an event director, Todd. Yeah. Things that you didn't know you were going to do, it happens. The ball keeps rolling and gets bigger and bigger and bigger. We all had some of those experiences. So it's like it blossomed into something. But what I wanted is I wanted an event that everybody can identify with. I wanted an event that really represents the true America that we are. Every color, every religion, every sexuality, all the terms that we hear today, I wanted. And you know what? People loved El Tour because they'd be riding and they'd look along and go, oh, you're Greg LeMond, or you're Jimmy Riccatello. And you know, Greg rode really slow, and everybody was passing Greg, and all the results were published in the newspaper. They all kept the article because their name was ahead of Greg LeMond, or ahead of Martha McSally, or ahead of Kevin. Yeah. But Kevin never got to ride because he was our attorney. So and Andy's been our route director forever. Where's Andy back there? And he would be working with every police agency. You know, so I didn't know that this was going to happen, but when I look back, this is what I want to happen. And it did. It did.
Richard.
Uh-oh. Did I go off topic again?
No, you're just cruising. Like, it's great. It's perfect. I'm just checking off questions. How'd you create an animal that raises over $100 million? Boom. Richard, do you realize that every person in this room here is here to show appreciation for you? For what you've done?
Yeah, but
Hold on. For your life's work, for your commitment to our community, for perpetuating El Tour, even through 5 bankruptcies, maybe more.
No, we never filed bankruptcy.
Pardon me.
And I'm here to attest, regardless of what that article said, we paid every bill. I want to know who in this community paid every bill for 37 years.
Yeah.
Oh, you did?
Your commitment to El Tour and our community has touched hundreds of thousands of people's lives. We all have a debt of gratitude to you. And I hope that you wake up every morning and can smile no matter what else is going on, because you have created this karmic ball that comes with you everywhere you go, that leads to outcomes like the Rotary joining in and contributing to the efforts, the energy that you've spooled up that leads to amazing outcomes. You're Richard DiBernardis.
Well, I certainly didn't do it for that reason. I just wanted to become Richard, to like myself and know that I'm not much different than everybody else. That's what El Tour is. And it's that you gave me the opportunity to discover myself. And by doing that, I blossom into helping others. But if we can do that, everybody in here, just do for that one more person, and you're all those kind of people, all of you influence. When I met Bob McMahon, that was the real mayor of Tucson for me. Bob had no idea who this guy was. And when I met Bob, and he introduced me to most of my sponsors, they're at the right restaurant and everything. But Bob, you helped me a great deal, you really did. And to be able to become a personal friend of yours, I think, except when we were on Mount Fuji together, when you wanted to throw me off, Yeah, he said to me, and you can never come in my restaurant again. I said, but Bob, I spend $10,000 a year in your restaurant. Of course, I took 20 from him. All it is in this community is we're just turning the money around and around to somebody else. Goes in this pocket over here. But you provided those great restaurants to us, but it was more your charm. We took them over to Japan. Next thing I knew, the mayors were coming over here with their communities. In fact, they're so impressed, we started El Tour to Mount Fuji over there. Up. And there was my goalpost. We forgot the goalpost for people to go in. And Chuck and his son were standing there holding people coming in. It was great. And they loved it, and they all came to El Tour. We had more Japanese than probably the Mexicans from Mexico to come. So we opened it up to the world. And it just worked. But Todd, I'm going to do one more thing here. Yeah. So this young man,
oh boy,
25 years ago, comes to me and says, hey, Richard, now he was what, 25 years ago, 19, 20?
21.
21, going to school here at the U of A. And so he comes to me and he said, I'd like to do what you do, but a mountain bicycle. I said, oh, thank God. I can't do mountain bicycling too, So I said, but Todd, how many times I've heard this before? I said, by the way, there's an article I read in USA Today that listed the top 200 most stressful jobs in America. I think that's that. Number one, most stressful job, being a general in the United States Army, Navy, Marines, or anything. Number number three was air traffic control. Now tell me that's not stressful. Number 5 was being an event director. I said, why would you ever want to be an event director? You should become a beautician because that was the least stressful job in the world. Really? Yes, a hairdresser. I'm hoping I come back as a hairdresser in this next life. So I said to him, yeah, okay, you better follow me because I'm not going to chase you. People who worked with me, after a month, they never want to be an event director again or any kind of director. So I said, okay, I'll help you out. And he was great. He just followed me. He did, I told him, do everything that I was supposed to do. Don't do what I did because I'm broke every year. So we go to his event and his mom and dad comes out. And his mom had a twin sister. And my family, some of them lived in Freehold, New Jersey. So I talked to his mom and her sister. Well, where does the sister live? Freehold, New Jersey. Where did Todd do his vacation in the summertime? In Freehold, New Jersey. Where did he go shopping? In my brother Raymond's store when he was a kid. And then he meets my sister Beverly, who works for me. And Beverly was the one that used to sell to him. I mean, the world is so incredible. It really is. You know, and this woman here, Penelope, we worked together. Well, we were friends together in Alaska. She was a legislative assistant up in Alaska. And I meet her. She introduces me to the Kutcher family, Aunt Kutcher. And that's why this whole thing started, because I came to Tucson because of them and the wonderful people that I met here. I mean, but we all have those stories in our life and really cherish those stories. They're incredible. So Todd I knew back when he was a kid. And here we are working together for years. I mean, he's like a little brother. He's like a father to me sometimes, too. He's everything.
Let me interrupt. Richard, thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. You took me under your wing. You taught me. You gave me wisdom and knowledge. You gave it to me unconditionally. You let me be a kid and make mistakes. You incubated epic rides. You let it grow and spread its wings. Having you down the hall, being able to rent an office in your office, being able to have an office in your office was invaluable. Being able to walk down the hall when I ran into a roadblock, which happened every day. So I could say, hey, Richard, what do I do now? And you'd say, try this or try that. I'd go do that. And I would keep moving, where that would have stopped most event directors in their tracks. That would have been the last year of their event. They wouldn't have figured that out. I don't know how I got so lucky to meet you. I don't know how weird it is that I met Bev when I was like 5. Rest in peace, Bev. You were amazing. It's the most storybook thing in the whole world to me. You've given me life. You've put my life on a trajectory that has purpose and value, and I could have never asked for it. It's like I just got lucky and fell into it, and I met you. Thank you. Thank you so much. Epic Rides would never exist without Richard.
Wow.
And I'm not done.
Oh, okay.
You can talk, but I got one from Matt. Matt was supposed to be here being our moderator, but he got sick. So you got me today. But he sent me with some words.
Uh-oh.
You want me to go?
Go ahead.
Okay. This is from Matt Nelson. Show of hands, who knows Matt Nelson? Great. Okay. Whew. Richard is the most influential person in my life. He's the reason I became interested in cycling, which shaped my entire youth and young adult life. He's the reason I first visited Tucson and fell in love with the Sonoran Desert. He gave me my first job straight out of high school and a place to live. Richard slept on the couch so that I could have the bedroom until I found my own place. His belief in my abilities and his commitment to lifting me up to pursue those has made me the person I am today. When I look back at my last 50 years, and the impact my life's work has had on others, there are direct connections to Uncle Richard. His impact is immeasurable and absolutely inspiring. I am so grateful we can all gather together today and at this year's 24 Hours in El Pueblo to honor Richard DeBernardis. I hope his story inspires others to live a life in service to others.
Matthew I guess most of you know that he's the head of the Arizona Trail System, 800 miles. I mean, Matthew's beautiful. He's a wonderful human being. I met him when I taught his 17-year-old dad at UCLA. And Matt wasn't even born yet. And then I was best man in Jeff's wedding. And we became friends because he lived up in the Mammoth Mountains, and I was going up there skiing all the time, and I had a place to stay. Now, Matt is an absolutely beautiful individual. But you know what? I can tell a story about each one of you. A ride should be dedicated. All you guys over there, Doug Holland, I'll never forget you in my whole life because of what you did. When I was pushed out, I'm okay about that. When I was pushed out, Doug called me up and said, Richard, I'm coming to work for you, you don't have to pay me anything. And he came into that office and handled that group, and he did well. You know, and of course, your wonderful wife, Janet Stamper Holland, just did the radio announcing with your buddy, with Ralph Phillips, you know. But really, I look at each one of you, I know all of you, I can tell a story about each one of you, and a ride should be dedicated. The only reason I'm sorry I left El Tour, they let me stay, I would have, maybe not, I would have to do 10 of you each year in order to get it on, but I would. You guys are amazing. But you gave me life. That's what kept me going, and you know, and I'm amazed, not at myself, but just that I had this wonderful life because of you. I got a chance to work with you, got to know you personally, and had an incredible life because of that. But I'm not finished. I'm gonna do another ride, surprise. So I have to say something to Julia. Julia, there's a story, I don't know if you remember this, I told this at the dedication dinner. So I try and meet as many cyclists. One day, the Tour de Tucson Mountains, I meet this man who's my age, comes up to me, and he's picking up his packet. It turns out he was from Boston. We were the same age. And I asked him what he did. He's a Catholic priest. And he was assigned by the Pope to come and work in Tucson because they own a telescope. He's an astrophysicist priest. Now, I don't know, trying to figure out how that works, an astrophysicist priest. Are they looking for God up there? I mean, God's beyond that, you know? Father Richard, you know, so he's Father Richard and I'm Richard. So when Pope Francis was positioned as the Pope, however they do that, Father Richard, a Jesuit priest, Pope Francis, a Jesuit priest, gets in touch with Father Richard because they're friends and invites him over to Rome to do a mass. Now that's like the Academy Award to go say a mass with the Pope. So Father Richard calls me and says, oh, he's a bicyclist. He bicycles everywhere. And he's still in town, Father Richard. So he says, Richard, I'm going over, and he said, I'm going to ask the Pope to say a prayer with me so that you can find a title sponsor. And I said, okay, Richard, if you're really going to ask him to do that, let me give you a t-shirt. And just ask him once when he comes out on the balcony, you know, nomine Patricia Fius, and to spread his arms open. Well, of course, Pope Francis didn't. Wouldn't do that to Pope Francis. So he did. They said a prayer. The day Pope Francis came to the United States for the first time, got down on his knees and kissed the ground, TMC signed a contract with me. So there was a Pope intercedence here, you know? Haven't met the Pope yet. No, you did wonderful. And also I have to say, my friend Len, who's not here today, my doctor, my best friend for years, I got COVID really bad 2 years ago, and I literally died. I was brought to TMC. those guys were every person from the time I walked in till I walked out and then going to do rehab. Len calls me up. Well, I was telling Julia, well, the first thing to do when you go into a hospital is what? Do you have medical insurance? So that's all hospitals do that. So this is no, insult to you. That's just the way it is. The second question they ask you, do you want to be intubated? I go, intubated? What does that mean? Intubated. Well, it's when they put the tubes in you. No intubation. If I have to, please don't do that to me. So I'm in the hospital and in intensive care. I was really sick. And Len, my doctor, Dr. Len Dittmanson, they wouldn't let him in because I was 100% of COVID in my lungs. I couldn't believe it. And I'm in there, and the doctors come in and gives me a phone. Len's talking to me. Now, this is what you'd love to hear as you sit lying there and so sick and hallucinating and everything else. He goes, Richard, we've done everything we could. He goes, there's nothing more we can do. The rest is up to you. He said, you got to go meet your maker. And I'm like delirious, and in my mind, go meet my maker. Well, do you have an address? I mean, no, and he said, Richard, you can do this. I did some meditation, and he said, but you're good with meditation. You got to get into your mind and go meet your maker. Well, the next thing I knew, I was in a dark zone. It was all black. But I looked up and I could see the horizon, and I could see like a white line going across the horizon. I just found myself walking, but I couldn't see anything. I get up there, and it was like being at the top of Mount Fuji, beautiful blue and everything. You know what that's like? And I looked over, and way back there, I see a guy, look like Jesus, and his arms outstretched and everything. So I started to walk towards there. And I had my head down, saying, I guess that's my maker. And I'm walking, and then suddenly someone says to me, well, where do you think you're going? And I looked up like, well, who are you? And my face said that. And the guy says, my name is Michael the Archangel. And I protect that man. I'm the protector of God. And I remember reading the Bible and everything, how Michael the Archangel threw everybody out of, all the devil and everybody out of heaven. And he said, so no one goes sees him. And he said, what are you doing here anyway? I said, well, my doctor told me I have to go see my maker, and so I should be here or not. I mean, I've never had a vision like this before in my life, so it could be my hallucinations, but this is really what I remember happened. So he said, you're not supposed to be here. I said, but he's supposed to. He goes, no, you're not going to go see him. It's not your time yet. And he said, in fact, you have a lot more to do. You have to go back. But he said, I'm not going to send you back unless you say you want to go back. He said, you got to forget what happened to you. I mean, because the biggest thing to me was when I had to leave El Toro, that broke my heart. He said, you got to get over that, and you need to go back. So I'm sitting on a rock looking up, and he goes, so you should go back. I said, but I don't know if I want to go back. He goes, no, you got to go back, and you just got to understand this. Go back and get into what you're doing. Just go back and do it. Next thing, I woke up, and Rich Pearson, where's Rich? Over there. There's a message from Rich Pearson on my phone. My friend Gretchen had to tell everybody I was dying, and they wanted to say something to Richard. Rich had this beautiful message to me. Richard, we heard you're sick. Tiffany and I love you. We need you. We want you to come back. We need to do Mount Fuji again. Because we went with Greg LeMond to do Mount Fuji. And then the next one was from Greg LeMond, Greg and Kathleen saying, Richard, we're going to do another trip. We're going to do another trip. You got to come back. Then the next one was from my brother Dennis, who told me he loved me. Number 8, I'm number 6, and he's telling me, my brother never told anybody he loved them, although he's married and has beautiful kids. I said, oh my God. And then everybody else started to write. And that made me feel, I mean, I got through, but Julia, your staff, from the young man that delivered me my breakfast and food that I couldn't eat, and everybody at you have to be proud. I'm proud of you. You have the greatest hospital, you know, so I thank you for that very much, you know.
Julia, Scott, Jimmy, thanks for joining us tonight. Richard, thank you for agreeing to be here. Yeah. Thank you for joining us.
This was a MaceSpace and Z-Bear production.